Hi everybody, my name is Dr. Ross Hauser, coming to you live from the studio at the Hauser Next Center here in Fort Myers, Florida. Love all you guys. Thank you for all your support, prayers, well wishes. This week we had a patient deliver pizza to the office just as a thank you. Different kind of presents. Just the response has been overwhelming to help us. And even just the notes of encouragement, so many texts, emails, Facebook posts, thank you so much. I'm not going to do too many videos on Hurricane Ian because life moves at a breakneck pace, and terrible things happen to all of us, just terrible. I saw one of my best friends die, then I was trying to resuscitate him for 30 minutes and then he ended up dying. I've been mugged in the city of Chicago. When we lived in Oak Park, our first place, I was the second person on the scene where I discovered my neighbor, who I knew well, Margaret. She had 2 knives sticking in her and she was naked on her bed and she was dead. She was stabbed to death. In 2012, our house burned down by a fire. And then in 2022, Hurricane Ian went through our house and there was 8 feet of muddy water in our house. And I just tell you these things not because I'm some great person or, just to let you know, everybody has a story of hardship. Like, we all have a story. You guys have a story, I have a story. And and we all know that circumstances don't make our character, they reveal it. So after the hurricane, I'm friends with our senior pastor and his wife, who's also Pastor Carrie and Russ. And Pastor Russ had Marion and I go up there to tell of our experience with Hurricane Ian. So I would like it if my office could give the link to that, because you might want to watch that whole service and you'll see Marion and I telling what happened. Then when we started the cleanup, I sent him a picture. So it's this picture. It's this picture. And if you looked at this whole picture, you'd see that I'm covered head to toe in mud. And he did a sermon on the gifts of the Holy Spirit and how in the midst of awfulness, there still can be an inner peace or a joy. Do you think I liked cleaning up mud for 6 hours or 8 hours or however long we were here? But basically, it's a job that has to be done. And as I told people, there are just times, man, it doesn't matter if you're Dr. Hauser, you're Marion Hauser, you're Izzy, Ella B. There's times where you just got to get on your hands and knees and scrub. And there's times where your kids throw up on your jacket or whatever and you got to wash it, and that's just how life is. So are the Hausers and other people who undergo trauma, are we quitters or are we overcomers? And I want to be an overcomer. Till the Lord takes me home, I want to be somebody who gave life everything he's got. He tried to honor God, and maybe through what he did, what you do, you improve the quality of life of those who knew you, those that you helped. If you want to, here's something funny. If you wonder if God has a sense of humor, I kid you not, if you looked at my cell phone, about 2 or 3 days after the hurricane, I got a notice from one of our friends asking if I would be the officiant at their mother's funeral. So it's like, Lord, do I not have enough to do? Like, we just got hit by a hurricane and we have to do remediation. And in other words, in the midst of all this, I still can try to help another family. So this Saturday, I'll be the officiant at a funeral and, try to help a family overcome their grief, right? Because grief is universal. Like, everybody has to undergo grief. And then, so we're hit with Hurricane Ian. We have to get the drywall out of our first floor and take down the ceiling. So what's the right thing to do? The right thing for Mary and I to do is just call on friends. So this is Scott Gray, who's a physical therapist who has the company Back in Motion. Scott has been instrumental in helping Marion recover after her pelvic fracture. I didn't even mention that Marion had a terrible pelvic fracture in 2019. Marion, I'm telling you, lifted stuff for 8 hours, and she was unbelievable. She was as strong as any guy that we had there, and really her pelvis was fine, and that was a large measure because of Scott. And then this was the first crew that I took out to Sanibel. There, that's Tom Matus, that's Danielle's husband. He worked on our places for 3 days. That is a good man. That is a really good man. Skylar, we go to church together. He's awesome. Antonio, somebody who I never met before this, and he just helped us out immensely. This is my car, the Audi, and all the cars are ruined on Sanibel because they were all under 6 feet of muddy water. And then this is what our first floor looked like after we took out all the drywall. This is Christina. So Christina, some of my staff helped us out. And there's the Prolomobile in the background. The Prolomobile completely destroyed. And look at all this. That's Marion. You can see how high these piles are. Basically, right now we're without water and electricity. When the water and the electricity come back, then of course we'll power wash. We'll get a mold remediation company out there. And Mary and I just know it's going to be a really long time before, in our experience, it's going to be a really long time before we really can enjoy the house. So we just signed a lease to be in a rental house for 6 months. So right now we're in our 4th home or apartment since the hurricane. And on Tuesday, which is 6 days from now, we'll be in our 5th home. And people ask, well, how you doing? I'll admit we're both really, really tired. So I'll say I'm tired. But I'm tired, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. As I threw out, cleaned out, I was on Sanibel for 4 days with 4 different crews, cleaning out, throwing out stuff, throwing out my Ironman medals, throwing out our, all of our medals. We lost basically almost all of our pictures, that we had prior to the internet era. We had all those pictures when we were, dating, all the, the stuff when we were dating. I'm the collector. So, and Marion, when she, when she's looking at this pile, she's like, 90% of this stuff is your stuff. So throughout it, because you get really depressed. Like, I'm a collector, and then, I like looking at old pictures. I'm very visual, and there was one time in it I felt God saying to me, Ross, the future looks bright. You have to focus on the future. The past is the past. Nobody can take away from me that I did 5 Ironmans. I just don't have the medals. Nobody can take away from Marion and I all the experiences we had when we were dating. And I used to write her these poems when we were dating, and of course, as a husband, I haven't written her a poem in a long time, which shame on me. So the point is, you're always making new memories, and the future, if we allow it, the future can be great. Like, my greatest days can be ahead. Izzy's greatest days, your greatest days can be ahead. The day after the hurricane, and I think I might have mentioned this in the first video I made, I saw one egret, one little beautiful bird come down, so all I saw was this devastation, in our backyard, and all the properties are just complete devastation. But you see this one bird returning to the beautiful island, Sanibel Island. It's just a picture of God is going to make Sanibel Island beautiful again. The hard work of Sanibelians, people from all over. The people helping us with the offices here to get them back up and running, they're from Texas, so people come from all over the country to help us here on Sanibel. I was able to see the governor. I mean, who would have thought I would be able to do that? So the governor was speaking 2 miles from the office, and for 1 hour, I was 7 feet from Governor Ron DeSantis, listening to him, seeing the First Lady. And I know I shouldn't say this, but he was taking questions. He was answering questions, and the person next to me asked a question. So I probably was on national news just from that. So I thought to myself, what would I want to ask the governor? And I didn't do this, and some people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but I wanted to ask the governor, Governor, what do you think about using prolotherapy in this situation? Then, of course, the governor would say, what is prolotherapy? So I would have had the governor asking me what prolotherapy is, and I would have said, Governor, with all the cleaning, people are going to bend and twist. They're going to stress out their ligaments. They're probably going to get ligament injuries, and the best treatment to resolve chronic ligament injury causing joint instability is prolotherapy. And he probably would have said, yeah, I'll have to learn more about that. But, obviously I'm just being sarcastic, but because our pastor showed our video at church, we've gotten to know so many more people at church. After church, different contractors like Scott Warren, Scott Cray, they came up. They've been phenomenal, helping us get crews, answering our questions. Even this morning, Scott Cray, he called me, and he had been to the house and just telling us that we did a good job with getting the drywall out. He thinks our roof is okay. So I've met so many people. Right before this, I hadn't had a haircut in a long time. My haircut person, stylist, Rebecca, who you guys know, she does an amazing job. Her place is flooded where she does it, so I had to be at another place. So when I was there waiting, the stylist comes out, and are you Dr. Hauser? I go, yeah. And she goes, yeah, I go to First Assembly. So she saw when we were on stage, and then she said, hey, Pastor Carey's going to be here. So then I was at the salon this morning, and I got to talk to my friend, Pastor Carey Hurst, and then we're supposed to go out to dinner with them on Friday. So Mary and I have just been surrounded by love, and honestly, the most valuable thing in the world isn't my Ironman medals, isn't the beautiful house we have. It's not my office buildings, that we have. It's the people that love us, and that's actually what life is about us receiving the love of God, giving the love of God to each other. And Danielle just walked in, so I'm just going to mention one thing. So I'm going to go back here. So literally, like Tom, he's her husband, and Danielle's here now. So Tom, her husband. So obviously, well, when you're in the thick of the mud, man, you just start talking about all kinds of things. So he was telling me about some of his, healthcare things that he's had over time, and really with kind of like a tear in his eye, and he's like, Doc, man, you help me. You help my family. And it's like, like in other words, like when Danielle got into the hospital, Mary and I, again, this is where we all got to follow God's will, and I said to Marion, I said, God's will in this situation is we got to free up Danielle. Like she's got to just free up with those kids. And like I've said before, the twins are doing great, but it wasn't hard for Tom to go to Sanibel Island 3 different days, and it is brutal work. And he's like, because, we shared God's love with him, and then he's just sharing God's love back to us. And there was a time in it where he's like, Doc, we're family. So he's my brother, Danielle's my sister. And again, from the bottom of our hearts, Marion and I just want to thank you all for just supporting us and loving us. And we love you all. And look forward to seeing you soon at Caring Medical or the Hauser Next Center. Thank you so much.